In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about some bass fishing terminology that I think confuses some people. Now, this is something I used to do when I taught in the classroom, and we would have days where, and when we got into a new story or we got into a new book or something like that, new reading series, there was just terminology oftentimes in those stories that my kids didn't understand, especially if we were talking about like Greek mythology. And so I want to do the same thing for you guys that I used to do for my kids, which is just clear up some terminology so that you guys can take it out into your bass fishing journey with you. And in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about a school of bass. What is it and why is it? So a school of bass. A school of bass isn't like a classroom full of bass all sitting there at their desk going, what are we going to learn about today? How to eat crawdads? No, a school of bass, simply put, is when a bunch of bass congregate together in an area on a certain type of structure or a certain type of cover. And this happens throughout the year, different times of the year. Bass will school together oftentimes in the coldest months of the year and the warmest months of the year. And oftentimes they'll do it in a little bit deeper water. Now that's not always true, but for the most part, that's where you're going to see schools of bass. And like I said, it just means a bunch of bass kind of come together, they school together, and they just stay together. And oftentimes, they'll school by size. So like if you catch a 2-pounder, normally they're all going to be 2-pounders. If you catch a 5-pounder, they're all going to be 5-pounders. Again, that's not entirely true, but oftentimes, even within bigger schools of bass, you'll have like one section of the school that's all the same size and another section of the school that's all the same size. Kind of like in a real school where you got like the kindergartners are in one part, the 5th graders are in another part. They're all there together in the same area, but they're in different areas of that area, making it where different sizes of fish live with different sizes of fish. And so that's what a school of bass means. It just means a bunch of bass that congregate together. Now, why do bass do that? Well, that is a natural instinct of a lot of different species of fish. You'll see schools of bait fish, schools of predatory fish. You'll see schools in saltwater fish, freshwater fish. Fish just school together. Now, certain fish don't. Muskies oftentimes almost never school together. They're just big, individual, predatory fish. They're kind of lonely. They kind of do their own thing. Whereas things like bass and a lot of the perch species and bluegill species, they will school together in these schools. And they do that for safety. That's the number one reason they do it. When a lot of fish are in an area together, it makes one fish look like a lot of fish, which looks like a really big fish. And so when your bigger predatory fish like stripers and muskies do come cruising through an area, if there's like 5 or 6 1-pound bass all sitting together, it looks like a really big fish that muskie doesn't want to mess with. And so fish that school together do it for safety. Another reason they do it is to be predators. A lot of the times bass will school together and you'll have a school of bass or even a wolf pack of bass, which is kind of different, but it's still just some bass that get together. And they'll actually use teamwork, we'll say. They're not actually team working. It's not like they're having logic and going, hey, dude, go grab that bait fish while I grab this bait fish. They just use themselves as a school together of fish to then corral bait fish, eat bait fish, and kind of work together in a sense to be able to be a better predator than they already are. And so that's 2 of the reasons why fish school together. Now, what's really cool about schooling bass oftentimes is that if you can get one fish to eat, you'll fire up the school. Now that's another term you'll hear as it pertains to schooling bass, is I fired up the school. Essentially what that means is it creates competition. And oftentimes when you see a wolf pack or schooling fish that work together, that's really more what it is they're just competing with each other, but that competition helps them to eat more because they corral bait and things like that. But that's essentially what you're doing, is if you can get one fish to bite your lure, other fish around it will try to take that lure out of that fish's mouth. And it's because, like my chickens, I have chickens there at my house. If I throw my chickens something, one chicken will grab it, all the other chickens will run around and try to grab it out of their mouth, even though there's like a whole bowl of what they want over here. It's just their little instinctual lizard brains going, that fish has something that I want, and I need to do anything I can to get it away from them. And so when that happens, if you can get one of those fish to eat, oftentimes you can throw in there over and over and over and over again and catch bass on consecutive casts once you get that school of fish fired up and you get that competitive kind of nature among those fish to show itself. And I've done this several times. It's one of the funnest things that you'll ever do, to just be able to sit in an area and make the same cast over and over and over again and catch fish over and over and over again. And if you want to see some schooling fish in action, click this video. It's popping up right here.